Hey everybody, so for today's video I want to talk about a question that I suspect many people who have been diagnosed with ADHD often ask, and that is, do I actually have ADHD? Is this something that's actually afflicting me, and does my brain function differently, or am I just somebody basically without the will to do the work they need to do? And that's something personally that I've struggled with a lot, because ultimately when it comes down to it, the way that you're diagnosed with ADHD is through a series of 3 surveys given to you by a doctor that's distributed to a parent, you, and then a teacher. And based on essentially the subjective tally of your outward behaviors, it's put into some basic algorithm, and they can apparently tell if you suffer from attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Now, my case may be different in that I deliberately manipulated the doctor to get this drug in about 9th grade, but that was also because I felt that I would receive a huge therapeutic benefit from it, and that I may have the condition known as ADHD. So for me, there's always this underlying question of legitimacy about, did I seek the doctor to get this drug to use it recreationally and to receive a boost, or did I therapeutically need this drug? And it's hard to tell, because although, yes, I did have many of the behaviors on what is called the Vanderbilt assessment scale that would indicate ADHD, when I go over that list again, it's basically indistinguishable from an immature kid. I mean, many of the questions are things like blurting out in class, failing to follow up on work, just basic things that would lead a kid my age to do things that get him suspended and to not help him in school. And so how many people have been falsely diagnosed based on the subjective judgment of parents and teachers who say basically that they can't sit still in their seat? And it's not like this doctor is giving you blood work that says you have ADHD. It's not like a DNA test can tell you, and it's not like they can run a brain scan on you, although there are fMRI, I believe, correlates to ADHD type of brains. But my point overall is that barring those brain scans, how do you ever actually validate to yourself that you're not just a weak-willed person and you actually have a brain that is organized differently and makes it harder for you to focus? And so I wonder if anybody else ever feels this question, because it's something that really was rooted in my mind for the entire 5 years that I was doing it. It can lead to feelings that you're cheating or you're receiving a boost just because it's helping you so much. And so the tricky thing there is that many people may be tempted to say, well, Quentin, if you received the therapeutic benefit from adderall, you obviously had ADHD. And I can see how from an outsider's perspective it seems that way, but let me tell you, I mean, I've given this drug to enough of my friends who arguably don't have ADHD or have never felt that they do, and they've received massive therapeutic benefit from it. They've been able to organize their work more effectively and be more efficient. And so now you have to say, well, if it worked on them, did they have ADHD too? And ultimately, we might get to a point where everybody has ADHD because Adderall works on them. So I think it's pretty fair to establish that you can't use Adderall working therapeutically on you as evidence that you have ADHD. And so where are we left after that? We're left with basically a rumination about why we sought out the drug in the first place. And maybe you didn't seek out the drug like I did. Maybe you took these surveys and then it came back, ding, 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 that you have ADHD. But I think it's interesting to ask yourself, all those behaviors, how are they correlated exactly with a condition? Because many of them, perhaps I should actually just bring up the Vanderbilt assessment scale, which I'll do now. And let's just go over a few of the things on the list and see if they sound like an actual condition or if they sound like behaviors that many children and kids you've seen perform. Okay, questions like, they rank you from never to very often. Questions like this: fails to give attention to details or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork. For me, very often made mistakes because I just didn't care about middle school and early high school. Next question: has difficulty sustaining attention to tasks or activities. Now, just knowing that answering very often to that puts a point in the ADHD column kind of enrages me, because what are the tasks that the kid has to do and what are the activities? Because do you have a condition, or are you in an environment that is not suitable to your attention span? And so next thing, does not seem to listen when spoken to directly. And now this survey is also testing for, I believe, oppositional defiant disorder, where I believe that's just a general problem with authority, which I definitely had. And so Next thing, loses things necessary for tasks or activities. All of these things fit me. Fidgets with hands or feet or squirms in seat. Leaves seat in classroom or in other situations in which remaining seated is expected. I'm just going down the list, and for me, all of these were very often, very often, very often. And I do believe that I probably have whatever the condition ADHD is. If it's a actual objective condition and not just a behavior and personality type that's not suitable to current society, I guess. And so next one, let's just keep going, is on the go or often acts as if driven by a motor. Next one, talks excessively. So all these I'm just answering. So I'm sure when the doctor put in my results, it was just on a big bright screen just said ADHD. But here's the thing, even if those questions had been never, 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 I wanted Adderall. And so all I had to do was answer very often. And so now these same sets of questions are given to your parents, and your parents may lean this out a bit. They may make it less extreme than you think you act. But personally, I mean, my mom didn't really have a problem with filling it out to the way that I self-described myself, because my mom's a working person and she didn't, see me all that often during the school day. And so giving it to teachers, that's the next thing. There's no proof that your teacher actually filled it out. So basically, in the same day, I filled this survey out. My mom filled it out according to how I wished she reported it. And then my frickin' a teacher never even did it. I just did it myself because I knew that I was on the path to get prescribed Adderall. And so that aside, there's clearly multiple problems with being diagnosed with ADHD. And that is that the survey system is completely, I understand that it's probably based on some type of scientific research, but it's extremely strange and easy to manipulate. And so right after this survey came in clean, I guess, or clean positive, the doctor prescribed me Adderall. I was prescribed my first trial dose of Adderall. And so while that's great and it did help me a lot, how many people have these second thoughts like, hey, I mean, that was a really easy process for diagnoses. Am I just kind of going along with it because I want to take medication that's a stimulant? Because that's what I asked myself for 5 years. And so get this, the way that you basically start to get your dose slowly increased is every time you go to the doctor, about every 3 months for me, you're going to receive a med check and you're going to get that same survey again. And guess what you do? You just keep reporting positive effects because they're just evaluating your subjective opinion of how the drug is acting in your life. And so there's questions like, how is your performance in math doing? And you can just keep lying. And so the way that you don't get your dose lowered, I'm not trying to recommend this, but I'm saying how it's done is just literally not reporting anything negative. When you get on the last page of that survey, it basically asks like any side effects, like what's going on? And you just put 0 for everything. No, of course I'm not getting headaches. Of course I'm not getting tremors. Of course, I don't have a weird like jolt now all of a sudden, which I totally did. So it's very easy when everything is based on subjectivity. And so if you at all relate to this video, let me know in the comments below. And so I think it's an interesting question that many people with ADHD ask themselves. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you liked it.